Hi, friends. So I just concluded my 8-week Heal What Hurts course that went from early in the summer until Wednesday. And in the last session, we got a little deeper into talking about the role of the divine in our healing process. And you always have to be a little bit careful because we're so many different nations and cultures that are living here together. So we don't have a shared concept of what that means. So I want to put a few words on that just because I think this is relevant to not just my students that are actively working with the Heal What Hurts process, but also for my students that just finished this course and others that have gone through this course, because we talked about the tone that you set with when you have prayer, connection to the divine as part of your daily practice. And what can that look like? And how do you each individually formulate that in a way that rings true? And at the same time, it's almost like you have to bypass the ego or the whatever mental ideas you have about God or the divine. And then whatever you say, it doesn't really matter that much how you articulate it, but it's the intention to invoke the divine within. So you can say, we all know the sensation of being just happy, just in the moment, at ease, appreciating everything around us, seeing the best in the people around us. And then there's another channel that is like looking for everything that's wrong, every way in which we're different from the other, and is very polarizing, disconnecting energy. And we contain both. And I would say, based on what I have learned and studied and seen, that it is to some degree like, what part of your brain are you occupying? Are you more in your creative, God-connected, artistic, childlike brain, right brain, where everything is beautiful? You stop and smell the flowers, literally. You just stop. I have an elderly friend that's one of my dearest mentors ever. Her name is Linda Berg. And she should get credit for that because she's amazing and she inspires so many people. She lives here in the Twin Cities. And when you go for a walk with her, and I'm busy gabbing about my work and myself and even asking her questions, and she'll put a hand on my arm and stop me and say, look at the loon out there. See the reflection on the water. And she'll stop. And she's also an artist, so she will paint and she'll draw, but she slows the whole thing down by stopping to look it, which is childlike, right? I mean, this is what my children would do when they were little. They would squat down. See, I'm even slowing down in how I talk, even tuning into that vibe. My son in particular would crouch down and he would just look at a flower petal and just sit there and mama, look it. So that slowing down and being in deep awe and reverence and appreciation, gratitude for life is such a fantastic vibration to be in. And when I first started learning about right and left brain was actually through a book that I highly recommend called My Stroke of Insight. It's written by Liz Bolte Taylor. I hope I said that right. And she was a neuroscientist who experienced having a stroke, and it impaired the left side of her brain. So she was kind of left with the functionality of the right brain until she healed, which she did. Enough to write a book about it. Pretty amazing. But what she was talking about was how she felt so connected to everything and everyone that even though she couldn't read at the time, because that's a left brain function, she would receive notes from people wishing her well. And it didn't really matter that she couldn't read the words. They were just little squiggles, but she could feel the energy, the well wishes, the love that was emanating from these handwritten cards. And I remember calling a friend of mine in Los Angeles, who's a neurologist, and saying, you've got to read this book if you haven't. And of course he had. But he said that in Los Angeles, someone invented a helmet that they call the God helmet. And it was a helmet that would effectively shut down the left brain. I hope I'm not butchering this. but you were left with the right brain and experiencing the world yourself through the right brain. So similar to what happened to her, just sort of artificially induced. And they called it the God helmet. Like that feels like being one with God. So if that's true, then you could say, okay, well in yoga we say yoga chitta vritti nirodha. Yoga is when we're united with God. That's not what that means. That's just to yoga is to unite ourselves with the God, light. But yoga chitta vritti nirodha, second verse of the Yoga Sutras, means slowing down or stilling even, quieting down the vrittis, the constant chatter, spinning of the mind. And then what's there when the mind is not going, when the left brain is not going kung, 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 then you're left with the stillness. We have it in Christianity as well, right? Be still and know that I am. The kingdom lies within. So that's just my preface to say that prayer is kind of our way of escaping the left brain kind of dominance, the mind chatter, and asking that part of us, the greater, more infinite, timeless part of us, step forward, let me feel you, take the reins, show me what to do, guide me. And then all of a sudden there is another energy that is also us, a much more true part of us, you could say. It's not a distant God somewhere up in the sky. It's the divine, the God within us that is woken up. You might say, well, it wasn't asleep, but we were asleep to it because we're so in the mind that when we still that down, then it's there. And then we surrender to it. And then suddenly we drive into a parking lot and we're more in that mind frame and we just sort of naturally find the parking spot. Or I have a friend who just told me she's dating this guy and they're totally into each other, but they weren't going to see each other. And they live in a busy place where there was a roundabout and it was rush hour and there's hundreds of cars trying to make it in and out of this roundabout. And lo and behold, without planning it or knowing anything about what the other was up to, they end up one right behind the other in the roundabout. And then the one follows the other and they end up having some time together that they hadn't even planned. Their ego minds, their intellects had not planned that, but clearly that higher God-driven self had planned that. So that's what I mean when I say prayer, that we invoke that. Dear God, let me still down enough to feel you. Let your light and your love fill me now. Fill my whole body. Release and let go of the tension that has been created by the stories my mind is imposing on my body. May I see this highest light in you, in the other. May I not interpret from my mind, my suspicious, haunted, wounded mind that would have me see ill intentions, but let me see the brother in the other, the sister in the other. Let me see the divine being that's beaming out behind the eyes of the other. And if I can manage to do that, there's something that happens too. If I see that in you, then you see that in me. And when we come from that place, everything beams and is more beautiful. So now this video is getting longer than I intended. So I think I will have this be my introduction to prayer. What do I mean by prayer? What is it that I think we're invoking when we pray? And then I think I'll make another video that will be purely an actual prayer. And specifically, I had several of my students confide to me that they wake up kind of in a panic and with a lot of anxiety. So I want to make a morning prayer, something you can say first thing when you wake up if you have that issue. So thank you for hearing me. Sending you so much love. Let's get this turned off.